Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to PWR today for Wednesday morning, October 6th, 2021. The man they call Meathead, and we refer to him by many names, but the one that his mama gave him was Matthew Thomas. Good morning, Matthew.
Hey, good morning. And she didn't, I think a close second was Gentleman Squire. They were going back and forth between Matthew and Gentleman Squire, and they just, I think, probably flipped a coin and just went ahead with Matthew.
Have you ever had a friend over and Mama was cooking and there wasn't enough food to share, and you told her, "It's a casserole, Mama"?
Every time. That's my go-to line. Whenever there's food on the table, that's always what I'm saying.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk a little bit about the news, and then we'll break down NXT from last night. Plus, we got to talk about AEW coming up. But first, Matthew, we didn't get to hear your opinions yet. It's all in the books. Friday Night SmackDown, Talking Smack on Saturday mornings, Monday Night Raw, and then Raw Talk Monday night. The draft is here and gone. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I am still not a fan of the brand split. I think Friday night and Monday night, both shows were enhanced by having all of your talent on there. And I think that is the direction that WWE needs to go in and has needed to go in for a long time. Things of note, I like the Austin Theory pickup on Raw. We saw that. We're seeing that pay, dividends thus far. And I like that. I'm intrigued by Hit Row. The only thing, honestly, that really intrigues me are the NXT call-ups. I'm not a big fan of this whole draft thing where, surprise, surprise, this person on this brand is staying on this brand. I think...
You mean the oversell of, if they're staying or going?
The oversell, and then the situation of, so are Charlotte and Becky just going to trade titles? Is that what happens when it's what happened last year? And what in the world, like, if you're to take this serious and seriously look at lineages of titles, it's like, okay, right, this title went there because it was a trade. And quite honestly, like, I'm not even a fan as the current incarnations of the red and the blue as when we had the heavyweight title with some lineage. At least you could trace that belt back. Man, I just I'm excited about the NXT call-ups. The rest of it feels unneeded. It's hard for me to get that excited about. Surprise, surprise, Roman Reigns is staying where he's at. How many of these draft picks are, they're staying here, they're staying here? Like, if you are going to continue with the draft, I think you need to make the champions undraftable and then have a little bit more surprise and not so much. I mean, WWE loves their 50-50 booking. They continually 50-50 book the draft.
Yeah. It's WWE. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. And I mean, a predictable element too, you look at all you really need to do ahead of time for a lot of your picks are to look at who's married or who's in relationships, and that's going to give you a good idea of who's going to end up.
And commentary too.
And commentary. I mean, with Graves and Carmella,
Yep. So, I mean, that's, it wasn't as big a deal last year when they did the draft because they weren't traveling at all.
Yeah.
But this year they're traveling. So when the shows go out on the road, they got to be able to travel.
That being said, I don't want to sound, overly negative on it. I mean, there are interesting things that are going to come up. I mean, I think you're going to get Drew and Roman. I think that's going to be one of your first programs. There are going to be some fresh programs there that I think that are going to be enjoyable, but it's just it's not a lot. And honestly, a lot of the NXT call-ups surprised me. They were not the names that I thought were going to be called up.
You, me, and the guy that was closest to the microphone wanted a certain gentleman by Lawrence Arabia Knight.
Yeah, no, that was that would have made some splashes, and we'll see. And maybe there are going to be some sleepers that we're just shocked with. Let me put this out there. We saw Austin Theory on Monday interact with Jeff Hardy, but there's one person that I can absolutely not wait to see Austin Theory interact with on the Raw roster. You know who that is?
Tell me.
Matthew to watch for 2021.
And that's Matthew?
That is the Matt Riddle Austin Theory interaction when
you want a Matt Riddle Austin Theory, because Austin Theory, this is not his first time on the Raw roster.
No. He was there for a hot minute.
He was there with Andrade, Zelina Vega, and who else came up with him as well? I think it was just the three of them, because Andrade and Austin Theory were fighting for the attention of Zelina Vega.
And, that was part of me that when he came up to the Jeff Hardy selfie, part of me would have been okay if he just got the selfie and just fanboyed off and walked away. But getting that mean streak and then going back to the giggling Austin Theory taking the selfie after, he was on the mat, I think there was I think that was a good move. And, we've seen that he can be enjoyable and also dangerous.
Yeah, I get it. Let me ask you this. So, have you been watching Heels? We're going to move on here from the draft. Have you been watching Heels?
I am behind on this week, but other than that, I'm
behind from the last episode a couple of weeks ago. Yikes!
I don't understand what you referenced me
to. There was when Ace decided to go with a new girl. He was definitely behind as well.
Oh, okay. I'll have to go back and review that.
Yeah, you'll have to go back and review that. Let's talk Heels. I feel like they're struggling, and I hope we can get another season because, folks, if you have not been watching this program, and I understand if you faded out after the first couple weeks because it was slow. It started slow, and it was like too drama-y for me. I wanted some wrestling, and I wanted some story. Wrestling and story. This thing is picked up. Coming this Sunday is the season finale of Heels. A lot of great stuff happening there. We've had surprise guest appearances by CM Punk as Ricky Rabies. Mick Foley as a podcaster and former hardcore legend. And to be honest, the main antagonist, the bad guy of this show, the bald-headed gentleman who runs the rival promotion with the white beard, Michael Malley, who was, Matthew, you don't know this yet, so you'll have to go to Google. And folks, if you don't know who this is, go to the Google, is The Rick. Hi, my name's Rick, but my friends call me The Rick. I'm a huge Boston fan. No, Michael Malley's been on a bunch of CBS shows. He was the voice of Time Warner Cable Spectrum for a while in those commercials. Big fan of his character. And to be honest, this last week, which was called Double Turn or Double Heel Turn or Double Swerve, I think it was, this show was picked up exponentially.
No, I'm glad I stuck with it. And I was in the same boat as you were week 1, week 2, especially to the point where, as somebody familiar with the industry, I wasn't quite sure that I was going to be able to enjoy it as much as, just somebody not as familiar with the industry watching the show. But they've really picked up, amplified their storytelling. And I think, with not giving anything away, but to me, it was episode 3 where you started to get a little more backstory of what was going on with these characters, and you got more character development that led itself to, it's like, okay.
And I still love James Harrison in there as well. He's amazing.
This show is a very big melting pot of genres. I mean, you've got drama, you've got some camp, and then you've also got, pretty well done comedy. Yeah, and casseroles. I mean, that's basically Meathead, you hit the nail on the head, man. I don't know that it's not crock pot, it's not melting pot. It's a casserole. This show is a casserole that works for so many levels that you need to watch. And I mean, we're talking about probably a 7-episode season 1, so it's not that big of an investment of your time.
No, they're 50-ish minute shows. They're meant for an hour consumption. Let's talk ratings real quick. They've aired 7 episodes. Again, Matthew hasn't seen it, so we're going to stay spoiler-free from last week's Sundays. But the debut episode was 128,000 viewers, dropped down to 103, dropped down to 93,000. That was with the CM Punk character on there, Ricky Rabies. Down to 79,000 viewers for weeks 4 and 5. It spiked up to 93,000 and 73,000 for this last Sunday. So here's the thing that I don't think are being taken into consideration. The episode isn't just debuting on Sunday nights on Stars. It's available the day before on demand on Stars on Demand. So I don't think that number is being correctly, digested, or if they're watching it on demand later. So, folks, I want you to keep this show going. I absolutely love this show, and I can't wait for the season finale this Sunday.
And here's the thing, Meathead, and I think at this day and age in 2021, maybe you can put, some leverage into live first run sporting events, that type of stuff, I think your numbers are still pretty accurate as far as people watching stuff live. But when we're getting into sitcoms and dramas and this content and this on demand over the top era, I think there's so many ways to access this and view this all legally that are not being taken into account in your standard ratings.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about one more thing here before we kind of move on. It is JBL has finally responded, and it's been a couple of years, honestly. I believe it was in 2017. JBL has finally responded to the accusations that he was bullying Mauro Renault. You guys remember Mauro as the voice of NXT for a long time. Mauro also came up and did the work on SmackDown. Mauro did a pay-per-view with Snoop Dogg. It was like a boxing match. I think he did some of the Logan Paul matches as well. Didn't he, or Jake Paul?
Yeah, and Mauro, he also called the Impact pay-per-view several months ago, the main event in Omega. Yeah, what was that? Was that the Omega Rich Swann? I think it was the Omega Swann main event, right?
Yeah, where Omega took the belt off of Swann.
Yeah.
So Mauro, great wrestling voice, great play-by-play voice. He's done a lot of boxing, MMA, wrestling, so forth. Here's JBL's words. Quote, maybe I could have deserved the accusations. I don't know. We were younger. We broke balls. I'm a loud guy from the South, and a lot of people, I think, took that wrong. I can tell you what, Mauro, there was never any malicious intent ever toward anything I said towards Mauro. Anything I said on camera, that was all in character. Some of it could be deserved. I'm not trying to rewrite my history. I wasn't a saint. We drank a lot of back then. We ran the roads, and we always loved to crack on each other. It was just part of what we did. And I think a lot of people took that wrong. Some of it has gone too far. I'm not trying to excuse anything that I've done, unquote. Here's what I hear from that. This is the analysis part of it. He's admitting it, and it's one of those things where that's how things used to be back in my day. That's how the boys used to do whatever. If it affected Mauro, you should have said something to him and said something to management. And if management was negligent in acknowledging it, kind of like the plane ride from hell that happened, and we learned more about it through the dark side of the ring, it should have been addressed.
And what I'm hearing with that quote, too, it seems like there's a lot of what sounds like jumping back and forth between time periods. You're mentioning the Mauro stuff, and then you are mentioning where that reputation came from your past. So here's
what I did for the last 40 years. Please excuse me. That's what I did for 40 years.
Yeah, it seems like you're really kind of in and out of time periods there.
It is what it is. I here personally, JBL didn't say anything about me, so I have no ill will. That's not my business, right? That's something between Mauro and JBL. And if it happened on company time for WWE, that's something for the WWE to handle. We're going to move on from it. Real quick, before we get into NXT, I know we kind of run down a lot of stuff. Hey, the draft took a lot of our time the last couple of days. What are your thoughts on Becky Lynch and some of the promos that she cuts?
We talked a little bit about this off air. I've been fine with them, and I think part of that is I'm glad to see Becky back, and I am glad to see Becky holding that SmackDown Women's title. To me, it has been refreshing compared to what I felt is the staleness of what we were seeing and what we continue to see with Bianca's promos.
Here's the part that I noticed that I was catching on to more specifically for Monday Night's Raw. Becky's got a bit of a stammering problem. Do you know what I mean by stammering?
So let me ask you this. Are you seeing this, and I'll have to go back and watch, are you seeing this in the actual in-ring promo, or are you seeing it in the commentary? Okay.
This was her on commentary, but she's done it in the ring too. Yeah. I love Becky, and I do want to hear her talk. I think she's being asked to talk for too long at a time. Okay.
And
I have that problem sometimes too. I really do, where I start to stammer on a little bit. I have that problem. So I, need to mentally check myself to kind of stop it. I think there's room to improve here, but yeah, right now Becky's promos and Becky's mic work it's bothering me a little bit.
Well, and we've been going to that well quite a bit with her on commentary, right? Because it was Friday and Monday. It was a consecutive SmackDown and a consecutive Raw, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so it is. I think she's being asked to be put in a role that I don't know how much experience she has. And I mean, going out there and cutting. And here's the thing too. I think Becky is in a strange situation because they're basically going against the grain of everything that was natural about Becky coming back. And she's going out to very mixed audiences. I mean, I'd say you're still 60, 65, 70% pro Becky. And she's trying to get heat, but it's subtle heat. It's not cheap heat. It's not, you're a bunch of losers here, sit down and shut up. So they're really trying to nuance this thing. And I mean, I don't know how strong of a position they're necessarily putting her in with all this kind of subtle heelness they want.
Yeah. All right, let's talk NXT from last night before we get into a couple things that are going to happen on Dynamite tonight that we need to get at. Let's open up with Mandy Rose and Ember Moon, just like NXT did. I know that you've pointed it out, and I've pointed it out a bunch of times as well. This lighting, this show right now is bothering the hell out of me. I'm going to be completely clear and honest with you folks. I watch it because I'm a broadcast journalist. We have to talk about it. We do a podcast 5 days a week. If I was on my own, I would not be watching this program right now because there is nothing left on there except a couple characters that I like, and the show is not programmed for me. It's not programmed for myself. Matthew, you'll chime in a second, but this show is not for me.
So I like the new entrance setup for entrances. It gets very distracting with the new NXT graphic. I don't like, nor do I understand the consistent branding of NXT 2.0. I understand if you want to hit a reset
the
button.
Mike flag doesn't have it.
Yeah, I know. I understand if you want to hit a reset button, but I don't understand what you are trying to accomplish with the aesthetic. Are you? I mean, there's part of me, meathead, when I'm watching it, I get a little bit of a serotonin shot from the bright colors initially, from going back to like the Funhouse game show and Double Dare, and then that, but that doesn't last long. That ends up settling in, and it's like, all right, what are we doing here? I mean, let me ask you this: Are you going for a tween / early teen demographic? Like, is this another WWFE Saturday morning show?
It's how it feels, and then it's going to bring up the younger talents. So Mandy Rose and Ember Moon. Mandy Rose with the win. Mandy Rose is right now, in all the negative that you're getting out of us from this NXT show, Mandy Rose is a positive here.
Yes,
Mandy Rose looks good, and she's wrestling.
It's a positive, and it's a nice reset on her. And I like Toxic Attraction as a stable. I think this is a good group of three women, and this is a positive to come out of the reset. And I give credit to the camera work, especially on the finish of this match. That running knee, that Mandy Rose hit, it looked vicious, but it was made especially vicious by the camera cut when she delivered it. Go back and watch that little ending to the match there. That was a vicious looking knee, and I think it was made to look even stiffer by that camera crew. So good finish to this match and good production work on this finish.
All right, so Odyssey Jones and LA Knight. Again, myself, Matthew, Linda, and even the guy by the microphone thought that LA Knight was getting called up. And then our fear was that Odyssey Jones was going to get put over by LA Knight, and Odyssey Jones was going to get on top of him. Well, due to shenanigans at the end of the match, obviously LA Knight with the win. Andre Chase yelling at Odyssey Jones, so there's something going on there. Cameron Grimes cuts his promo. And I don't understand what the fascination was with Pete Dunne and having Ridge Holland there. Ridge Holland's going to be leaving in 2 weeks? So, I mean, yeah, let's keep Rich Holland on TV, keep his name out there, but Cameron Grimes ain't going to be bothered by that. He's a happy dude. He's to the moon, but you got to give him something to do, I guess. So that sets up the match. Matthew, I don't like the placement of the NXT champion.
Yeah.
It was at about 25 minutes after the hour with very little fanfare. We know that watching these programs, the high-profile spots, the spots that you're getting your people over, the main event spots are top of the hour, bottom of the hour, which leads into the top of the next hour, main event. Tommaso Ciampa's in the spot where the new people go. That is the quote-unquote curtain jerker spot.
Well, hey, it's better than last week because he was live via FaceTime from his gym.
Right.
And I think the reason that you're not having your current NXT champion in Tommaso Ciampa in very high-profile spots is I don't think he's going to hold on to that title long.
You think it's going to Braun Breaker?
I think it's going to Breaker as soon as Halloween Havoc. I think the writing's on the wall. I mean, this NXT 2.0 reset, honestly, has been the coming out party for Braun Breaker. He was in the very first segment of NXT 2.0. I mean,
in the very first main event.
Yeah, in the very first, in the match after that, so basically he walks into LA Knight's camera time, he beats LA Knight, and it's been nothing but, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think he's a star. I worry that you pull the trigger too quick.
I feel like he's being shoehorned in there.
Yeah. And that's what we're in. And it would not surprise me one bit if he's your champion sooner rather than later. Where in the world does Ciampa fall? I don't know, but it's hard for me to imagine Ciampa having these 30-minute takeover classics in this new version of NXT. It just doesn't.
Takeover at all.
If there's a takeover at all. And you and I were talking off air about this. I can't imagine NXT 2.0 right now in this incarnation, filling Barclays prior to a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam or a Survivor Series or a Rumble. We're only a few months removed away from that. A few weeks removed from the original NXT, but it feels like such a different product that is more of kind of your lighthearted introduction to wrestling in a lot of ways, to kind of go back to the child or the tween or teen show. It's kind of like it's feeling in a lot of ways like my first wrestling show.
Okay, let's move on. Again, let's talk positive. Joe Gacy came out to take on Ikemen Hero. And Joe Gacy, this guy is going to be a heel star because he's condescending enough and heelish enough that it's going to get over.
Yeah, he's a star. And as confused as we've been with the product, the Gacy character might be one of my favorite things that WWE is currently doing. It feels like a fresh storyline. And again, you talk about shoehorning in, man. I know you're going to get to it here in a minute, but I'm a little concerned about how quick they're moving this guy up the card.
Okay. But I'm okay with it. Speaking about somebody that moved up the card, Cora Jade, who has told everybody she's the youngest talent to get her official in-ring debut, was going to take on Virginia Ferry, but no, Frankie Monet took her spot, and Cora Jade gets the victory over Frankie Monet.
I'm okay with this. Frankie Monet dominated the match. It was a quick roll-up victory. It's probably going to put those two in a program together. So it gives both of them something to do and gets Robert Stone on my television.
Rich Holland and Cameron Grimes, but Rich Holland was supposed to take on Cameron Grimes, right? How did Pete Dunne become the winner?
Not really sure. And to go back to Grimes, something that feels very, very B-list is this whole angle that they're trying to throw Grimes in about trying to find him a woman.
Yeah. It's like they had to write an extra line in there because they're doing a double episode that week.
Again, it feels like you're kind of writing for, and I get a lot of the Grimes stuff ahead of time wasn't necessarily, high rent angles, but it's little things like this that it kind of feels like you're writing for kids.
Okay, Malik Blade takes on Tony D'Angelo, that debuting character that is a guy from from Jersey, from New York, or one of those areas. Forget about it. Tony D'Angelo with the win.
Yeah. I mean, it's he's one of your characters. And then what got me, and I don't know if you're going to get to this or if it happened so quick that maybe it didn't register, but my man Duke, who I've thought is the future of NXT, he gets a vignette. So apparently,
Now he's a poker player.
He's a poker player. Yep. We got to give him something, man. You know how well it worked when you had trash men and when you had Native Americans and when you had accountants. We got to get back to that. Let's make this Duke guy. He came out there.
So it was a 2-hour program, right? NXT was? NXT was a 2-hour program. Let's count the matches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. I mean, seriously, can you imagine this many matches being on Raw? Because sometimes they don't have them, and they're 30-minute matches. I mean, they're giving us 5 30-minute matches. I like smaller matches.
Yeah.
And I want longer matches for pay-per-views. But good grief, man. Mei Ying took on Indy Hartwell, and Indy gets the win. Mei Ying, it's not a character for me, but, I'd like to see where it goes. And Raquel Gonzalez had her promo, and here comes Mandy again. Mandy with the, Toxic Attraction?
Yeah.
They look good. They look good. I think this is really doing wonders for the three of them.
They look good, and I think Mandy needs to be the one to take the belt off of her. And, I mean, Mandy's had a main roster tenure for 2 years. I mean, maybe you kind of see with her what you saw with a Drew McIntyre, what you saw with the Finn Balor. I think she's another option where you can really have her go and do some work in NXT and be all the better for it. And again, for the most part, I enjoyed the first hour. I thought the first hour was pretty solid. And there are things that I really like about this new NXT. It's just like, and I'm not literally talking about, the bright colors and everything, but I find myself each week after watching the show, I'm just kind of dizzy. I'm dizzy
it's
and
too
a
much.
little,
and that's the point I'm
confused,
making with all the matches.
As to what this is supposed to be.
So, Kyle O'Reilly, a couple times on TV, he's got Von Wagner as his backup. Apparently, he's going to have a tag team match with him next week against Dunn and Ridge Holland. And then finally, the main event was a 4-way elimination match for the NXT tag team titles. It was Brooke Jensen and Josh Briggs versus the Grizzled Young Veterans versus Carmelo and Trick Williams versus MSK. Your winners and still tag team champions, MSK. Run in by Imperium at the end. But, that's just going to set up another match, hopefully at Halloween Havoc, between Imperium and MSK.
I want to see them do a better job of investing interest in these tag teams. Like this match was fine, but I found myself like, when this was initially a match announced and then it was converted into a 4-way, there's not a lot of interest that I have about any of these tag teams. And I just don't know if that's me, or I don't know if the tag team division in NXT, they're kind of being cast as, this is the NXT high flying tag team division for the most part. I feel like we need to see more. We need to see more. I don't want to say characters because then they'll give me, a stereotypical mobster and a poker player, but I need to care a little bit more about who's wrestling in the tag team division.
Yeah. I'm struggling a little bit with it. Like I said, you say dizzy, and I'd say that, they're giving us high pace because we mentioned how we can't see them working a takeover. A takeover would be a 15 to 20-minute match for everybody.
Yeah.
And I can't see these talents that are coming up now working more than a 5 to 6-minute match.
Well, let me ask you this. Joe gets healthy. Can you see Joe in this system?
No.
I mean, it's just, and the concern is such a big reset on something that was such a success as NXT.
Allegedly a success because they thought they were not winning because they thought they were losing to AEW.
I mean, here's the thing with NXT. It was a critically acclaimed product. And just take the head-to-head against AEW out of the equation. Like NXT for years, and a lot of times when people were down on WWE, was something people could take away from it. But I think one of the shortcomings of NXT, a lot of these guys, you would get to the main roster and it was supposed to be prepping them for the main roster, and you would have issues like the Ascension or
Vaudevillians.
Or Vaudevillians that just didn't translate.
AOP.
And so now what I'm seeing, Meathead, is it's weird because it's very character based.
Brizongo. I'm not done. There's more. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you had, late 80s, early 90s with this guy. This is his hobby. This is his profession. But a lot of the matches seem very indie like, and not talking Indy Hartwell, but like go to Gacy and go to my man in the short pants and the long sport coat that I enjoyed the heck out of that match. But you're watching this and this seems like, a match you'd see on an independent show. Sure.
All right, let's talk AEW tonight. Really, I want to just hit on a couple things. First off, is AEW going to be in a bunch of water tonight? Because I feel like there's a fish coming.
Oh, as long as it's not like the boat and water matches and pool matches that I saw on Dark Side of the Ring last week.
No. And folks, we love watching Dark Side of the Ring and talking to you about it, but I'm not going to be reviewing that show. That's just not my style.
I would. Knowing your preferences, I wouldn't recommend it.
No. But we've got a couple things coming up here. So we've got a big 8-man tag. We've got the Super Elite with Don Callis taking on Bryan Danielson, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Christian Cage. We've got Hikaru Shida taking on Serena Deeb. And there's a casino ladder match. The winner gets a world title shot. I can't believe we're doing a casino ladder match on a TV show. Plus, Sammy Guevara, the new TNT champion, taking on formerly of NXT, formerly of the Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, making a AEW debut. Not officially All Elite yet, but he's going to get a match. Remember, folks, Eddie Kingston, when he wrestled for the TNT Championship, was not contracted to All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, and remember how well they put him over on commentary, talking about how he had sold his wrestling gear, and this was just a out of the blue chance to get there. So no, this is another loaded show, and a lot of very interesting stories are telling here. I really want to see Serena Deeb pick up the win tonight and be able to, put off that 50th win? Is it number 50 she's working on?
She's 50th win. And Serena Deeb's the woman of 1,000 holds. She's the Dean Malenko of the women's division.
Yeah, and I think she's somebody now that Serena Deeb is healthy that could really be a freaking mainstay in that women's division.
We need Serena Deeb there all the time to be in the division.
We need her, and we need her to pick up this win tonight. I think that's the way to go about it.
This is not speaking ill of Shida. We need Deeb to get this win.
But where's the story in a 50th win? There's a story in not being able to pick up that win. There's a story in, and here's the thing with, with Shida, as long of a title run as she had, I don't really feel like she was ever given much of a story. It's like she's a really good wrestler.
That was before the women's division took off.
Yeah, and she's got the title. And I mean, to her credit, she carried that. She was one of the staples that carried it through the pandemic. And but I think this is the time for Deeb to pick up the win, and it's the time to tell a story with Shida, and hopefully we get that tonight.
I think we're going to get a great show tonight. We've got a great Philadelphia crowd for AEW Dynamite tonight, so I'm excited to see it.
One more thing, Meathead, I want to add about the ladder match too. There is a Joker in this ladder match too, so there's apparently going to be a surprise on tonight's show.
Okay, well, I don't have my gear, and I haven't gotten the phone call, so it's not me.
I mean, they run flights from Wisconsin to Philadelphia multiple times a day. I'm just saying.
I can get Milwaukee to Philly. Honestly, I could probably drive there. If I were to leave first thing in the morning, I could probably make it to Philly before the show.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, man.
In reverse. Because remember, they were trying to get to Chicago.
That's right. Hey, I think there's a story.
What was John Candy's band? It was like, we're from Sheboygan, we're to Wisconsin. What was it? It was like.
So you're thinking about Home Alone, aren't you? You're thinking about him in Home Alone.
I am thinking about Home Alone. You're right.
Yeah, because that's who the mother got a ride with. He was like a polka, right?
Yeah, it was a polka band from Sheboygan or something, or Kenosha.
Yep.
You're right. I was thinking John Candy in the back of the van and his polka buddies.
Well, join us tomorrow on John Candy Trivia. And if you need something to wear while you're watching your favorite John Candy movies, maybe you've been eating some popcorn with some nice, hot, and salty melted
Or you were working on the
butter
car right before your Raw promo.
You were working on the car right before you threatened murder on somebody on Raw, and you need to replace your wardrobe. Head on over to collarandelbowbrand.com. Enter promo code LindaK to save you some money on those new threads that you can use to buy more popcorn, or you can use to spend on some motor oil when you change your oil next time.
You know what? I'm gonna grab this mic, Matthew. We're done today, right? But I want to talk to the collar and elbow guy and Uncle Al. Again, we mentioned it yesterday on the program. I think we need to get mixed up in Movember. I need to see a mustache collar and elbow T-shirt coming out for the month of November. All right, I'm out.
Fantastic.
For Matthew Thomas, I'm the man they call Meathead. Hey, thanks for stopping by. We're going to talk to you tomorrow morning all about AEW Dynamite. So long, everyone.